The devil's on the loose and he's dancing with the mummy.
Doc Mark and Karis, the Little Mummy, here to bring you another episode of Macabre Cast, where we'll be dropping R's where they belong and adding them where they don't. Hello, Karis. Newbies, welcome. Regulars, welcome back. And worshippers, get out of here. This is Macabre Cast, episode 80, happening now. So, Karis, when I talked last week about movies that I had watched over the Halloween break, the one movie I forgot to mention I saw on the Joe Bob Halloween special was Satan's Little Helper. Now, this was a movie I have avoided forever, mostly because of the title. This is a movie that takes place on Halloween, and it's about this kid that's obsessed with this video game called Satan's Little Helper. And meanwhile, there's this serial killer wearing this mask it's supposed to be Satan, who the kid sees, and he's kind of in this delusional video game non-reality, and literally starts walking through Halloween night with who he thinks is Satan, and helping him go about his dastardly deeds. I really enjoyed this movie. Now that there's some cheesiness to it, but this was a fun movie. I really enjoyed it.
Satan's Little Helper, huh? Whew, that sounds like a real pip.
Anyway, we got a great show this week, and a surprise for the viewers/listeners, something that I've been pushing for a while, and actually started to think wasn't going to happen.
I know what it is. I know what it is.
Well, the surprise is for later, because right now, it's time for horror news.
Life's river shall rise, she said, but then only the strong shall survive, she said, but I'm feeling quite weak, she said.
Tony Todd, Candyman himself, passed away to the other side on November 6th. He was 69 years young. Silent Night, Deadly Night will get a reboot. Mike P. Nelson of Wrong Turn and VHS 85 will write and produce. This Santa slasher goes into production soon and is slated to release in late 2025. Finn Wolfhard promises a lot of action sequences in the final season of Stranger Things. Wow, is that even news? I think everyone involved says whatever they can say to get press, so we don't forget it even exists. And that's it for horror news.
She said.
And Brownie agrees. Brownie, the corpse-sniffing dog.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Oh my, he's ringing the bell, knocking at the door, and he's calling on the phone, Karis.
Shh. Dummy up. He's got a condition.
Hey, Doc Mark and Little Karis, Hard Chat Matt checking in. Doc, once again, I must apologize about slam banging on the door and ringing the bell nonstop. But much like Bruce Banner when he becomes angry, when there is a new episode of Macabre Cast, I cannot control my excitement levels. It's my curse, and unfortunately you are forced to deal with it, as you always make Mondays too exciting when a new episode drops. Doc, I have a question for you and the other monster kids again this week. I'm curious. I'm pretty sure we're all in the same boat, having grown up watching horror movies, that we find it increasingly difficult to become scared or frightened by a movie. I'm wondering, what was the last movie that you've seen that actually generally freaked you out and you found scary? Now, I will admit that every once in a while, a really good jump scare can still get me. But on the flip side, when I'm watching even a regular TV show with my wife, and the most obvious jump scare happens, and she's going out of her skin, I always say to myself, geez, have I watched too many horror movies, and now I'm too jaded to be scared? And then I come to the conclusion, no, that's not it at all. She hasn't watched enough horror. Shame on her. For me, the last movie I remember generally creeping me out was 2012's Sinister. There was just something about the lost films that he was watching, the way they were shot, the soundtrack. It was just super creepy and almost a little bit too real, some of them. And it left me with a very uneasy feeling. So, yeah, I'm curious what you and the other Monster Kids think, and what the last movie was that really freaked you guys out. As always, Doc, keep bringing all the macabre to your legions of Monster Kids as we look forward to each and every week's episode.
I've had this conversation many times, and Grim Kim will know the film that has really affected me. Now, I'm an adult, so it was very different when you're a kid. So I can say, when I was 10 and saw Halloween, obviously that was petrifying to me. But as an adult, now with kids, it was Speak No Evil. Because I think at some point in our life, we've all been in situations before where there's awkwardness and you want to be polite and say the right thing. But the older I get, the more, I agree with that, forget politeness. Especially when it comes to your kids. That movie, seriously, very effectful, very upsetting, Speak No Evil. I mean the original one, the Australian version. I haven't even seen the newest one out there, but Speak No Evil. In jump scares, there's a time and a place. I think some movies, there's a little bit of overkill. But there's a time and a place, and it's all in the setup. And the first one that comes to mind for me for jump scares is Exorcist 3. And if you know, you know. I'm not going to give it away if you've never seen that movie and this jump scare doesn't get you. It's, wow, you must be dead.
You say the same things over and over again. Talk about the same movies. The same jump scare over and over again. I want to hear from the other Monster Kids. Let's hear their movies that actually still scare them all this time. We've heard your Speak No Evil and your Exorcist 3. Let's hear from the others.
Would it kill you to be nice for once? Thank you as always, Horror Chat Matt. So great to hear from you week after week.
You gotta be cruel to be kind in the right measure. Cruel to be kind, that's a very good sign. Cruel to be kind means that I love you, baby. You gotta be cruel to be kind.
So you know how sometimes, you have an idea and, you push for it or you angle it and try to make it happen. And sometimes it just doesn't come to fruition. And some time goes by and you don't put much thought into it. And then all of a sudden, it happens. And unexpectedly. But we're not going to do that now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to do the surprise just yet. I'm going to give you a hint.
Double your pleasure, double your fun. That's the statement of the great myth in Double Men Gone.
And that's it. That's your hint. So let's move on, and we'll come back to it.
Hello, Doc, Mark, and everybody. I want to first start off by saying I believe the first horror movie I saw, if I remember correctly, was It's Alive. And I think I was maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years old whenever it came out. I'm not sure. And I was friggin' terrified. Definitely terrified. I went and I saw 2 movies in the last couple of weeks. I saw Smile 2, which was a good movie, but the ending was really bizarre. I actually had to Google it to see what the hell it meant because it was that weird. So it would have been a great movie had the ending have been different. And if you watch it, you'll know exactly what I mean. What else did I see? The Heretic with Hugh Grant, because I love Hugh Grant. Love me some Hugh Grant. And that was okay. I mean, that's like something you can wait till it streams, because it wasn't that good. Like I said, it was okay. It's worth watching, but don't waste your money at the movie theater. I know what else. Cannot wait for the blizzard to arrive. Yeah, I got my ticket, like, I don't even know, like, when it first came out that Friday. I got my ticket, and I'm psyched. Can't wait to see you guys rock that stage, man. I love the Blue Ocean, going to see different bands there. It's a really nice place. So can't wait. Oh, and another last thing. I can't wait to see Nosferatu when it comes out. However, I am not going to see it on Christmas Day when it opens, because I think that's kind of bad luckish, maybe? Kind of evil? I don't know, but I'm going to wait. I'm not going to go see it when it opens Christmas Day. I'm going to see it probably that weekend, though. That's all. Take care, everybody. Have a good rest of your week and weekend, and can't wait for Monday's episode. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you for calling in again, Metal Melody. I myself am very much looking for Nosferatu, but have an awful lot to do on Christmas Day. As much as I'd like to see Nosferatu, just not that day. Maybe not for the same reasons, but more because it's Christmas Day. But, and you mentioned It's Alive, which is so bizarre because you're going to love this week's Deep Death Dive. Thanks for the call in, Metal Melody. Hope to hear from you again soon. Deep Death Dive. And today's Deep Death Dive is about Larry Cohen, maybe one of the last filmmakers making movies that entertain, not movies that Hollywood wants made. Starting off as a blaxploitation writer with popular flicks under his belt like Black Caesar, Cohen became mostly known for his offbeat horror and science fiction movies. Most people my age can remember their favorite programs being interrupted with a trailer for this gem.
The Davises have had a baby, but they're not sending out any announcements. Most new parents are a little scared when they have a baby. The Davises are terrified. You see, there's only one thing wrong with the Davis baby. It's alive. It's alive. Don't see it alone. Please. Rated PG.
It's Alive released to a lukewarm response in 1974, but it was repackaged and sent back out with a pumped-up advertising campaign like the one you just heard in 1977. This time, the film was a success, and that spawned 2 sequels, It Lives Again, Island of the Alive, and even a remake. Its dark message was simple. Keep using and abusing the environment with chemicals, and this could be the result. Mutant killer babies with razor-sharp fangs and claws. The special effects were anything but special, but use of a distorted camera lens does the job to allow us to see as the monster babies see. Dad wants it dead because, well, come on, this thing isn't going to continue his bloodline, right? The doctors and the pharmaceutical companies want it dead because they don't want the public looking for them to blame. The professor, well, of course, he wants it for research. If Cohen gets anything right, it's showing man at our worst. Larry Cohen always made the movie he wanted, no matter who else may have wanted something different. He filmed It's Alive simultaneously with Hell Up in Harlem, meaning his film crew worked 7 days a week till both films were completed. Cohen originally wanted Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh in the main roles in hopes to reunite the two. Wow, what could have been? Larry went on to make God Told Me To, Q, The Winged Serpent, The Stuff, and Maniac Cop, to name a few. And look for him as one of the band members playing at the infamous New Year's Eve party in 1980's Terror Train. Sadly, Larry Cohen died of cancer March 23rd, 2019, at 82 years young.
I think that surprise you mentioned earlier just showed up.
Welcome to the movie review for the movie Heretic with Grim Kim and Grim Twin. Come play with us, Marky, forever and ever and ever. Boom! We just saw Heretic. It is opening day here in Woburn. We just walked out. I didn't let my sister talk, Chris, and we are here to give you what we think of the movie Heretic. Chris, I'll let you begin. What is your overall consensus of the movie? It's an A24 production.
I think it brought up a few provocative themes. I love Hugh Grant. I've always loved Hugh Grant, and he can get twisted very easily.
The premise of the movie is a couple of Latter-day Saint missionaries, and one is trying to fulfill a baptism of getting someone to believe, and they show up at a house of someone who is dubious at best. They seem a little reluctant because he's not following safety protocol, but somehow he distracts them. From there, we go into a lot of different movies I thought of. A, People Under the Stairs. B, 13 Ghosts, which I brought up last week. You're set in this some kind of home, a pseudo home that has traps and tricks, and there's no way out. One of the opening lines that the girls kind of just gloss over is he says to them as he welcomes them into his home. It was kind of like a pre-assigned meeting. He says to them, by the way, the walls and ceiling are lined with metal.
Is that a problem?
And they don't really acknowledge what he said, but I think as the audience, Chris, you're like, oh.
It definitely conjures up images of Dante's Inferno, Dante's levels of hell.
Yes.
There is a model that figures into the scenery that the protagonist keeps playing with. He's carving small figures, and
it was very Clash of the Titans.
I was about to say the same thing.
Clash of the Titans. Who is controlling who?
Yes.
Which actually is the thematic element of the movie. He's talking religion. He's trying to break it down. He's trying to prove something where you think is going to turn supernatural, but maybe by the end you realize it's just the mind of a madman. And by the very final scene, you're like, okay, this went a little off the rails. Yeah.
You can also throw in some shadows of Phantom of the Opera.
Absolutely.
Descending into this, further and further into this weird space of, and if you like creaking doors, this movie is for you. The sound designer got like a 20-second creak going of those doors.
Yes, I mean the whole tone. It's a rainy, dark environment. How can they even see? The other thing is, Chris, I don't know if you saw the movie As Above, Down Below. As Above, As Below.
I did, but I can't remember.
It's about the French catacombs. And it definitely has this feel. Any kind of movie that is set in at times a subterranean environment, it's just like, it's so claustrophobic.
Very much.
And what's funny is they kept looking at this source of light. There's kind of a skylight dome thing with all these kind of dead butterflies in it, and you think somehow it's going to be the route of escape, let's say, for maybe at least one of the protagonists. But that doesn't really happen. And it's like, actually there was a black and white sketch of what this thing actually looked like that was built. And it was like a subterranean coliseum of sorts, or a funnel. And it's not really realistic. It was built under this cottage somewhere, that's supposed to be in America.
English countryside.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely have to let go of a certain amount of realism at least halfway through the movie.
There is kind of an unfulfilled teaser at the very beginning of the film, and I was convinced something was going to be revealed about one of the characters, and that in fact never happened. So I don't know if that were like a bit of a red herring going on there. It's quite a philosophical film in its own way. It raises a lot of questions about the nature of belief, the nature of indoctrination, the fine line between magic and reality, life and death, power, control, all of these things.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, did you see Barbarian last year?
I don't think so.
With Justin Long?
No.
There was a lot of tinge to Barbarian in many ways, with mother figures and in the subterranean environment. And it's interesting because I'd say after the first third of the movie, you realize that maybe his intentions were what you think they were, but he goes about it in such a roundabout way.
Well, I'm glad you just said that, because one thing that I kind of take away is I'm not sure they were completely clear, and maybe it's not clear.
Right.
What were the intentions of Hugh Grant's character?
Yes.
It's just a little bit still, even at the end, even at the very end, the last choice he makes in the film kind of leaves me wondering, well, what does that mean? What are they trying to say with that?
Right. Maybe. Because you're like, oh, okay, he realized he's not going to be able to pull fast one on her and keep in his little butterfly collection, if you will.
Oh.
Which doesn't even really get explained.
I'm really glad you just said the word collection.
Yes.
Definitely brings up the Collector, John Fowles.
Yes.
There was an old film made of the Collector.
Chris, it's on my list to watch, like, tonight.
That's what I had recommended
Yes.
to you. Yeah.
The original and also the remake, too, I need to watch.
Remake?
There's a remake, too, that's really, really popular.
I didn't know that.
And either it's called The Collection,
okay,
or it's just called The Collector and it's the remake of it.
Yes.
Yeah, and
then that links up to Lovely Bones.
Yes, absolutely. Because in the end, what happens in the end in giving one of the protagonists salvation, and also the symbolism of the butterfly, it leaves you with more questions than not,
Right.
because did it even transpire?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's just, as far as he's obsessed with control and the nature of control. However, that being said, I mean, the control by force and control by perhaps drugs too. It's just, it's very thought-provoking.
We also challenge the viewers to identify. There's a very brief cameo in this movie of a well-familiar actor, and we challenge you to identify who that actor is.
Yes.
We were quite surprised and tickled upon the credits to see the name of this cameo.
Yeah, and you'll figure it out because there's a very finite cast to this movie. Hugh Grant looked exactly like Hugh Grant. I think it was great casting for the movie.
Yep.
The two younger actors, fantastic.
Very good.
Very atmospheric.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely have it in the horror sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because it depends on what you fancy. I thought maybe it was going to go the way of the old ones, Lovecraftian. And it's, very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Chris, would you recommend the movie?
I would recommend the movie. It is a little bit wordy, and if you're the type of viewer who needs a lot of action in every scene, this might be a little harder for you. However, if you can get through some of the wordy scenes, the action does pick up, and And it does leave you interested to see how it's going to resolve.
I'll tell you what, and I think my twinsy here is going to agree with this. If you like Mike Flanagan's works, and Dark Mark, I know you do, you will appreciate the tone.
Agree.
And how wordy the movie is. And also the fact that it leaves you a lot to discuss.
Yeah, true.
And I know that me and Chris both enjoy.
Dark. What happened? Just like that, they were gone. Gone.
But I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her.
Well, finally, after all the badgering and pushing, we accomplished having Grim Kim and Grim Twin on the show, only for them to get taken out by Delbert Grady again. Oh well, can't win them all. Fantastic review, Grim Twins. Hope to hear from you again soon.
I ran out, I didn't grab no shoes or nothing, Jesus. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Doc, do you think Scary Larry has a twin?
No. More than likely, he'd have an evil doppelganger.
Doppelganger? What's that?
Well, what am I, a human dictionary? Google it. Take out your crypt phone and Google it.
Is this something you could share with the rest of us, Amazing Larry?
Greetings, Dark Mark and Karis, a little mummy. Scary Larry here, and I'm ready to continue on with my Christmas-themed horror movies. I rewatched a favorite, 2015's Krampus, so I could write a good review. I said when I first watched it, I hadn't had this much fun with a Christmas horror flick since Gremlins, and I'm happy to say my attitude has not changed. Starring Adam Scott and Toni Collette, among other good character actors you'll recognize, it's Christmas time, but people have lost their Christmas spirit. And two sisters whose families don't quite get along are forced to celebrate the holiday with each other under one roof. German grandmother of main character Max, and a firm believer in all things Christmas. She sees the warning signs of the pending menace approaching the family, for she herself encountered Krampus as a child, knows that Krampus is the opposite of Santa Claus, feeding on the misery of people during the holidays. When a blizzard comes, hell follows with it. I give this 3.5 stars, being both hysterical and spooky, with great effects, and it's really just a fun romp. If you haven't experienced this movie, it's currently streaming on Max.
Great review, Scary. And I've told this story many times before. I stayed away from Krampus for years. I just had no interest in seeing it. When I finally sat down and watched it a few years back, I loved it. I thought it was so well executed. What a great movie. And that's kind of definitely a yearly Christmas horror for me. Now, it's not going to take the reins of Silent Night, Deadly Night, or anything like that, or Black Christmas, but I do love Krampus. And hope to hear from you also soon, Scary Larry, because Scary sees it, so we don't have to. In 1931's Dracula, Lugosi delivers the line, "There are far worse things in life awaiting man than death." Yes, Bella, you are or were so right. And one of those things is regret. My mom had Alzheimer's, and it stole the last 10 years of her life. She was the shell of the wonderful woman that she was. I wish I had known what was coming. I wish I could have talked with you more, spent more New Year's Eves with you, on and on and on. To say each day is a gift is the biggest understatement of our existence. So, go out, buy her that ring, or that red dress that she always wanted. Don't let her dance by herself. Comfort each other when everything around you is falling apart. Cherish every moment. Say you're sorry and offer forgiveness when asked. At the end of Private Ryan, Tom Hanks tells him, "Earn this." Exactly. Earn this. Remember, be good to yourselves. This is Dark Mark, signing off. See you soon. I hope.
This is a Macabre Theater production.